Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, it's great to see you. And I want to highlight a comment in your written remarks where you said compassion requires results and not just resources. And I could not agree more with that. And one of the things that I want to focus on in my questioning is prevention of homelessness. We focus a lot of times on those who are homeless, but we don't look at those who are about to fall into homelessness. And so I want to focus on housing affordability and whether enough housing is being built to meet demand. Builders, I can tell you, builders and housing providers continue to raise concerns about construction costs, permitting delays, and regulatory requirements that have slowed development and as a result made projects much more expensive. In fact, in Florida, we are also seeing significant growth in build-to-rent housing with more than 13,000 new single-family rental units currently under construction in cities like my hometown of Jacksonville. So my question is, how is HUD working to reduce those regulatory barriers and help increase the supply of attainable housing for our working families out there who risk falling into homelessness? And then secondly, how does HUD view the role of build-to-rent communities and how that plays into increasing housing supply and or expanding housing options in fast-growing states like Florida?
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Congressman Rutherford. I appreciate that, and it's good to speak with you again, sir. You know, as I've traveled and as you've alluded to, as you talk to industry experts and you talk to builders and developers, the regulatory environment really has crippled the construction and the development industry in our country. Open borders, illegal immigration, all of these things have stifled home building and raised the cost of housing. And so what we've done at HUD is really, take the lead in bringing down the affirmatively further and fair housing rule, which made Washington a national zoning board, and we restored that flexibility back to localities. Localities know their unique needs better than, bureaucrats in Washington, to be honest. And we've also encouraged, as we've traveled around, localities, mayors, economic development corporations to take a look and take inventory of their regulatory environment and see how they can ease that environment so that builders can build and buyers can buy. The president just signed 2 new executive orders, as you know, one to reduce the barriers to building, constructing affordable homes, and others to bring more competition to the mortgage industry to get the hometown lenders back into the game. And so reducing these barriers from a federal, state, and local standpoint will help builders to build. And also, taking down the International Energy Conservation Code, which added almost $30,000 to every project, to help builders. Builders are already building to these codes. And so the regulatory environment has really crippled development in our country. And when you look at the build to rent, when you look at single family home, multifamily home, we need about 7 million units of housing in our country of all sorts, manufactured homes. And so I support, developers and builders to build affordable housing for the American people. But the regulatory environment has to come down. Bureaucracy has to be erased.
Thank you for those comments. And I want to follow up with this because it is about not only having adequate resources, but making sure that we're using those resources wisely, as you've indicated. Last time we spoke, we talked about some improper payments and how they're identified. How is HUD working to ensure those cases are resolved and funds are recovered?
Yes, sir.
And how is HUD holding individuals accountable when fraud, misconduct, or oversight failures occur, including among HUD employees who fail to go look at the no-pay list?
Yes, sir.
And are we recovering those dollars when they're improperly paid out?
Thank you, sir. And we've mentioned the almost $5 billion in improper payments, and Irv Dennis and his team, and I met with them, have assured me that they are working very hard to make sure that those things don't happen in days ahead and to hold people accountable. We have Irv and his team have a great partnership with the OIG to make sure that we're going after waste, fraud, and abuse internally and externally. And I will say, sir, that makes me very proud, of our team, political and career at HUD, to make sure that we're being good stewards over taxpayer dollars because it's my job, you know, as a
If I could cut
fiduciary
you
of
off, my
HUD. Yes,
time's
sir.
about
Go
to
ahead, go
expire,
ahead.
but I do want to
Sorry.
say that I look forward to the improvement in that. Thank
sir.
you.
Thank
I yield
you.
back.